The stars above the Valorian homeworld had always been peaceful. For 3,000 years, the Valorian Empire had spread across 12 star systems, building cities of crystal and light, advancing science and art, never once raising weapons in anger. They had no concept of war, no understanding of true violence. The galaxy, they believed, was a place of reason and diplomacy. That belief died when the Krell came. The attack began without warning. Massive ships, black as the void itself, emerged from hyperspace above Valoria Prime. They did not send messages or demands. They simply opened fire. Orbital stations exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Defense satellites, designed only to track debris and monitor weather, were obliterated in seconds. The Valorian fleet, built for exploration and trade, tried to respond, but their energy shields collapsed under the brutal bombardment. On the surface, cities burned. The Krell landing craft descended like iron rain, disgorging soldiers that moved with savage efficiency. Buildings that had stood for centuries crumbled. Millions of Valorians fled in panic, their sophisticated society crumbling before an enemy they could not comprehend. In the Grand Council chamber, deep beneath the capital city, High Commander Valora stood before the holographic display showing the destruction above. Her silver skin had turned pale with shock. Around her, the other council members spoke in frantic, overlapping voices. "We must evacuate the core worlds," one shouted. "Contact the Galactic Assembly," another demanded. "They must help us." "The Assembly will debate for weeks," Valora said quietly, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We will all be dead by then." She turned to the communications officer, a young Valorian named Kelvin who was barely managing to hold himself together. "Send a distress signal. Use every frequency we know. Broadcast it to every star system within 100 light years." "Commander, most of those systems are unexplored," Kelvin protested. "We do not know who might receive it." "I do not care," Valora said, her voice hard. "Someone must answer. Anyone." Kelvin's hands moved across his console, encoding the message with images of the devastation, recordings of the Krell attacks, and desperate pleas for help. The signal contained everything they knew about their location and the enemy they faced. Within minutes, it was broadcasting across space at faster than light speeds, a bottle thrown into a vast cosmic ocean. Valora watched the display as another colony fell. She had sent a cry into the darkness, hoping for salvation. She had no idea what she had just summoned. Across the galaxy, the distress signal rippled outward through subspace. It passed alien civilizations that heard it but turned away, unwilling to involve themselves in conflicts beyond their borders. It reached the Galactic Assembly, where bureaucrats logged it as incident report and scheduled a committee meeting for the following month. It touched 1,000 worlds and was ignored by them all, until it reached Earth. The signal arrived at the Deep Space Monitoring Station orbiting Jupiter on a Tuesday afternoon. Greg Murphy was halfway through his shift, drinking terrible coffee and watching nothing happen on his screens, when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. "What the hell?" Greg shouted, nearly dropping his cup. His fingers flew across the controls, trying to isolate the source. Beside him, Lisa Bennett was already pulling up the data. "It's coming from outside the system," Lisa said, her eyes wide. "Way outside. This is a subspace transmission, Greg. This is alien." Greg felt his heart hammer in his chest. Humanity had been searching for signs of alien life for 200 years. They had found bacteria on Mars, simple organisms in the oceans of Europa, but never a signal like this, never proof of intelligent life. "Can you decode it?" he asked. Lisa's fingers danced across her keyboard. "The signal contains visual data and audio, but it is not using any language protocol we know." "Wait, I am getting something. Pictures." "Oh God, Greg, look at this." The screen filled with images of burning cities, ships exploding in space, and creatures that were definitely not human fleeing in terror. The images shifted to show the attackers, massive beings covered in dark armor, their weapons tearing through everything in their path. "This is a distress call," Greg said softly. "Someone out there is dying and they are asking for help." "We need to report this immediately," Lisa said, already reaching for the priority communication link to Earth Command. Within an hour, every major government on Earth knew about the signal. Within 6 hours, the Terran Federation Council had convened an emergency session. Within 12 hours, they had made their decision. Captain Jake Harrison received his orders while the TSS Endeavour was docked at Mars Station for routine maintenance. He was in his quarters reviewing supply manifests and wondering why his shore leave kept getting cancelled, when his communication panel chirped urgently. "Captain Harrison, you are needed on the bridge immediately," his executive officer said. "Priority Alpha orders from Fleet Command." Jake was on his feet and moving before the sentence finished. Priority Alpha meant war or first contact. Given that humanity was not currently at war with anyone, that left only one option. The bridge of the Endeavour was already buzzing with activity when Jake arrived. His crew had assembled at their stations looking tense and excited. Danny Cole, his tactical officer, was running weapons diagnostics. Amy Rodriguez, his chief engineer, was checking the faster-than-light drive systems. Dr. Kevin Wells was reviewing medical protocols, and Megan Foster was at communications, her headset firmly in place. "Report," Jake said, sliding into his command chair. "Sir, we have received a decoded alien distress signal from a star system approximately 40 light-years from Earth," Megan said. "Fleet Command is ordering us to investigate and render assistance if possible." "Assistance to who?" Jake asked. "Unknown, sir. The signal shows a civilization under attack by unknown hostiles. We are the closest military vessel capable of faster-than-light travel." Jake leaned back in his chair, processing this information. The Endeavour was a light cruiser, designed for exploration and patrol duties. She carried decent weapons and shields, but she was not a warship. If they were jumping into a combat situation, they would be badly outgunned. "Danny, what is our combat readiness?" Jake asked. "All weapon systems are green, Captain," Danny replied. "We have full magazines of missiles. Point defense systems are operational and the railguns are charged. We are as ready as we are going to get." "Amy, can the engines handle a jump this far?" "The drive is good for 50 light-years without cooldown, sir," Amy said confidently. "We can make it there and back with power to spare." Jake nodded slowly. This was insane. They were about to jump into an unknown situation, possibly in the middle of an alien war with no backup and no idea what they would find. But someone out there needed help, and humanity had finally reached the stars. They could not ignore this. "All hands battle stations," Jake ordered. "Megan, transmit our jump coordinates to Fleet Command. Let them know we are going in." "Aye, sir." "Amy, spin up the drive. Danny, I want weapons hot the moment we exit hyperspace. Kevin, prep the medical bay for potential casualties." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, each person focused on their task. Jake felt the familiar vibration through the deck as the faster-than-light drive began charging. On the main screen, Mars Station slowly receded as the Endeavour moved to a safe jump distance. "Drive is charged and ready." "Captain," Amy reported. "Coordinates locked in," Megan added. Jake took a deep breath. "Execute jump," reality twisted. The stars stretched into lines of light, then collapsed into a tunnel of swirling colors. The jump through hyperspace lasted only seconds from the crew's perspective, but it carried them across 40 light-years of space in that brief moment. When they emerged, they found hell. The Endeavour dropped back into normal space amid a debris field that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Burning wreckage tumbled through the void, the remains of ships and stations torn apart by weapons fire. In the distance, a planet hung against the stars, its surface scarred with fires visible even from orbit. "My God," Danny whispered. "Sensors are picking up multiple contacts," Megan said, her voice tight. "I count at least 30 ships in the system. Most appear to be fleeing. 3 large vessels are in pursuit, firing on the smaller ships." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display zoomed in on the pursuing ships. They were massive, easily 3 times the size of the Endeavour, with dark hulls that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons fired in steady streams, tearing apart the fleeing vessels with ruthless efficiency. "Those must be the hostiles," Danny said. "Captain, the fleeing ships are barely armed." "This is not a battle. This is a massacre," Jake's jaw tightened. "Megan, try to hail the fleeing ships. Let them know we are here to help." Megan worked her console frantically. "Sir, I am getting a response from one of the damaged vessels, attempting to establish communication protocols. This might take a minute, their language is completely foreign." While Megan worked, Jake watched the screen as another fleeing ship exploded under enemy fire. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. They had come too far to just watch. "Danny, bring us about. Put us between those civilians and the hostiles." "Sir?" Danny turned to look at him. "You heard me. Get us between them. The Endeavor's engines flared as the ship accelerated toward the first missile left the Endeavor's launch tubes with a flash of fire and smoke. It streaked across the void, its guidance system locked onto the lead Krell warship. Seconds later, a dozen more followed, spreading out in a pattern designed to overwhelm point defense systems. On the bridge of Commander Valora's damaged ship, the remaining crew watched in stunned silence as the small human vessel opened fire. The missiles moved faster than anything they had seen before, and when they struck the Krell ship's shields, the explosions were massive. "What kind of weapons are those?" Kelvin asked, staring at his sensor displays. Valora had no answer. The human ship was tiny compared to Krell warships, barely a quarter of their size, yet it fought with an aggression that shocked her. The Valorians had energy weapons that were precise and efficient. These human weapons were brutal and overwhelming. On the Endeavor, Danny Cole watched his displays with fierce concentration. 3 direct hits on the lead ship. Their shields are holding but weakening, reloading tubes 2 through 6. "Keep the pressure on them," Jake ordered. "Amy, give me everything the engines have got. I want us moving fast and unpredictable." The Endeavor banked hard to port, her engines flaring bright. The Krell ships had opened fire now, massive energy beams lancing through space where the human ship had been just seconds before. Amy's hands moved across her controls with practiced ease, throwing the ship into a series of evasive maneuvers that would have torn apart a less sturdy vessel. "Captain, the Krell are trying to flank us," Danny reported. 2 ships moving to port and starboard. "They are trying to catch us in a crossfire," Jake said. "Megan, tell those Valorian ships to get clear. This is about to get messy." Megan relayed the warning, though she doubted the aliens understood just how messy it would get. She had served with Jake Harrison for 3 years and knew his reputation. The captain was calm and professional during normal operations, but in combat, he was something else entirely. "Danny, launch a full spread at the starboard target," Jake ordered. "Then pivot all railguns on the port side and fire everything." The Endeavor twisted through space like a dancer, her missiles launching toward one enemy while her railguns tracked the other. The railguns were human engineering at its finest, using electromagnetic force to accelerate projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. When the tungsten slugs hit the Krell ship's shields, they punched through like bullets through paper. The Krell warship shuddered as the impacts tore into its hull. Atmosphere vented into space in frozen clouds. Internal explosions rippled along its length as the tungsten penetrators shredded through critical systems. "Target 1 is heavily damaged," Danny reported with satisfaction. "They are losing power and falling out of formation," but the other 2 Krell ships were still very much in the fight. Energy beams hammered against the Endeavor's shields, making the whole ship shake. Warning alarms blared as shield strength dropped to 70%, then 60. "Shields holding, but they will not last forever," Amy shouted over the noise. "We need to end this fast." "Working on it," Jake said through gritted teeth. "Danny, deploy the drones." "Deploying now." Hatches along the Endeavor's hull opened, releasing a swarm of small automated combat drones. Each one was barely larger than a person, packed with sensors, explosives, and a basic artificial intelligence that made them terrifyingly effective. They spread out like angry hornets, moving in patterns that confused enemy targeting systems. The Krell had never encountered anything like them. Their weapons were designed to track large ships, not dozens of small, fast-moving targets. The drones closed in, attaching themselves to the Krell hulls and detonating. Each explosion was small, but there were so many that the cumulative damage was devastating. Commander Valora watched all of this unfold with growing amazement. "What kind of species are these humans?" she whispered. "Commander, I am picking up a transmission from the Krell," Kelvin said. "They are broadcasting on all frequencies." "What are they saying?" Kelvin listened for a moment, his expression confused. "They are calling for retreat. The Krell are running away." Valora could not believe it. The Krell did not retreat. They were the terror of this sector, conquering 12 species in the last century alone. They did not know fear, yet there they were, their 2 remaining ships breaking off the attack and jumping to hyperspace, leaving their damaged companion behind. The human ship, this Endeavor, had fought 3 Krell warships and won. On the Endeavor's bridge, a moment of silence followed the enemy retreat. Then Danny let out a whoop of victory that was echoed by the rest of the crew. "Target lock lost, sir," Danny reported with a grin. "The hostiles have fled the system. Secure from battle stations." Jake ordered, though he kept one eye on the sensors. Damage report. Shields at 42% and recharging, Amy said. Hull integrity is good. We took a few direct hits, but nothing critical. We can keep fighting if needed. Medical is standing by, but we have no casualties, Dr. Kevin Wells added from his station. We got lucky, Captain. Jake nodded slowly. Lucky was one word for it. Crazy was another. They had just picked a fight with ships 3 times their size and come out on top. Fleet Command was either going to give him a medal or have him court-martialed. Megan, hail Commander Valora again, Jake said. The alien's face appeared on screen again. She looked like she was in shock, her large black eyes even wider than before. Captain Harrison, Valora said slowly, you defeated 3 Krell warships with a single vessel. How is this possible? Jake shrugged. We came prepared for a fight. Commander, what is your status? My ship is badly damaged. Life support is failing and we have many wounded. We need immediate assistance. Understood, Dr. Wells. Prep a medical team. Danny, organize a damage control party. We are going to dock with the Valorian ship and render aid. Over the next several hours, the crew of the Endeavor worked alongside the Valorians, stabilizing damaged systems and treating the wounded. Dr. Kevin Wells found that Valorian biology was different but not so alien that human medical knowledge was useless. He worked tirelessly, his team helping to save lives that would have otherwise been lost. Jake and Valora met face to face when the airlock between their ships was opened. The Valorian commander was tall, taller than Jake by a full head, but she moved with obvious exhaustion and pain. Her silver skin was marked with burns and one arm hung limp at her side. You should be in medical, Jake said immediately. I am the commander, Valora replied. My crew comes first. Captain Harrison, I must know. What are humans? Your ship is small, yet you fight like nothing I have ever witnessed. Jake helped her to a seat in what remained of her bridge. Humans are from a planet called Earth. We only developed faster than light travel a few years ago. We are new to this whole galactic civilization thing. Valora stared at him. You are a young species? But your weapons, your tactics. You fight with such skill. Yeah, well, we have had a lot of practice, Jake said quietly. Humans have been fighting wars since before we had written language. We have fought with sticks and stones, with swords and spears, with gunpowder and nuclear weapons. We have fought over land, resources, religion, and sometimes just because we did not like each other very much. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times before we finally figured out how to work together. Valora looked horrified. Your species has been at war with itself? For how long? Pretty much our entire history. The last major conflict ended about 30 years ago. That was when we formed the Terran Federation and finally unified Earth under one government. But why? Valora asked. Why so much violence? Jake thought about that for a moment. I think it is because life on Earth has always been hard. Our planet is beautiful but dangerous. We evolved competing with predators that wanted to eat us and diseases that wanted to kill us. We learned to fight because we had to. And once we learned, we never really stopped. Valora was silent for a long time. Then she said, the Valorian Empire has existed for 3,000 years. In all that time, we have never known war. We settled disputes through negotiation. We believed that all intelligent species would choose peace over violence. The Galactic Assembly teaches that warfare is a primitive phase that civilizations grow beyond. Maybe for some species, Jake said, but not for humans. We understand peace and we value it. But we also understand that sometimes you have to fight for peace. Sometimes you have to be willing to do violence to protect the things you love. The Galactic Assembly will not understand this, Valora said softly. They will fear you. Then they can fear us. We did not come here to make friends, Commander. We came because someone needed help. Valora looked at him with something like wonder. You traveled across the galaxy because you heard a distress call. You did not know us. We could have been enemies. Yet you came anyway. That is what humans do, Jake said simply. We hear someone calling for help and we answer. On the main view screen, the damaged Krell ship still hung in space, powerless and adrift. Danny had suggested they destroy it, but Jake had refused. They had driven off the enemy and helped the Valorians. That was enough. But as the Endeavor's crew continued their rescue operations, something was happening across the galaxy. The Krell did not simply retreat. The news reached Earth 3 days after the battle. The Endeavor's report traveled by faster-than-light communication, arriving at Fleet Command headquarters in Geneva at 4 in the morning local time. By sunrise, Every government on the planet knew that humanity had made first contact with alien life, and it had happened in the middle of a war zone. Admiral Christine Hayes was in her office by 6, reviewing the tactical data from the engagement. She had served in 3 wars during the unification period and knew combat when she saw it. The Endeavor had performed brilliantly, but they had also been lucky. 3 against 1 was terrible odds, and next time humanity might not be so fortunate. "Admiral, the Council is convening an emergency session," her aide said from the doorway. "They want you there in 20 minutes. Christine nodded, already gathering her materials. The Terran Federation Council was going to have a lot to say about this, and she needed to be ready. The council chambers were packed. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the seats, their conversations creating a dull roar that echoed off the marble walls. Christine took her place at the military briefing station and waited for order to be called. Counselor Peter Grant, representing the North American Union, stood to address the assembly. He was an older man with gray hair and a reputation for caution. "We are here to discuss the incident in the Valorian system. Admiral Hayes, please present your report." Christine activated the holographic display, showing the battle from the Endeavor's perspective. The council watched in silence as the footage played, showing the missile strikes, the railgun fire, the drone swarms, and the eventual Krell retreat. When it finished, the chamber erupted in voices. "This is reckless," one counselor shouted. "Captain Harrison engaged an unknown enemy without authorization." "He saved lives," another countered. "Those aliens would have died if we had not intervened. And now we have made enemies of this Krell empire," Peter Grant said heavily. "An empire we know nothing about, with military capabilities we cannot assess. We have potentially started a war." Christine stepped forward, her voice cutting through the argument. "Counselors, we did not start this war. The Krell attacked the Valorians without provocation. We responded to a distress call, which is our duty under every maritime and now spacefaring law we have ever written. The question before us is not whether Captain Harrison acted correctly. He did. The question is what we do next." The chamber quieted. Christine continued. "The Valorians are a peaceful species with advanced technology but no military tradition. The Krell are conquerors who have destroyed 12 civilizations in this sector alone. If we do nothing, the Krell will finish what they started, and eventually they will find Earth." "Are you suggesting we go to war with an alien empire?" Peter Grant asked. "I am suggesting we act before we have no choice. The Krell now know we exist. They know we are capable of fighting them. If we show weakness now, they will see us as just another target." Counselor Maria Lopez from the South American Federation stood. She was younger than most of the council, with a background in xenobiology. "Admiral, what do we know about the Galactic Assembly that Commander Valora mentioned?" "Not much," Christine admitted. "According to the Valorians, it is a loose coalition of spacefaring species dedicated to peaceful cooperation. They have strict non-interference policies and avoid military conflicts. They refuse to help the Valorians because of bureaucratic protocols." "So they just let genocide happen?" Maria asked, her voice incredulous. "Apparently. The galaxy operates very differently than Earth. Most species achieve space travel after becoming peaceful. War is seen as something primitive civilizations do. They cannot comprehend a species like ours that mastered both space travel and warfare simultaneously." Peter Grant shook his head. "Then we need to proceed carefully. If we send a military fleet, this assembly may see us as aggressors." "With respect, Counselor, I do not care what they think," Christine said bluntly. "The Valorians sent a distress call and we answered. That makes them our responsibility now. I am recommending we deploy a task force to Valorian space immediately." The debate continued for hours. Some counselors argued for caution, wanting to establish diplomatic contact with the Galactic Assembly before committing forces. Others agreed with Christine that speed was essential. Finally, a vote was called. The resolution passed by a narrow margin. The Terran Federation would deploy a military task force to protect the Valorians and deter further Krell aggression. Admiral Hayes would command the operation personally. As the council adjourned, Peter Grant approached Christine. "I hope you know what you are doing, Admiral. You are taking us into unknown territory." "We were always going to reach this point," Christine replied. "Humanity was always going to meet other species eventually. At least this way we are meeting them as protectors rather than conquerors. Or we could be seen as both," Peter Grant said quietly, then walked away. Christine returned to Fleet Command and immediately began organizing the task force. She had authorization for 12 destroyers, 4 heavy cruisers, 2 carriers with full fighter squadrons, and her flagship, the TSS Retribution. It was the largest military fleet humanity had assembled since the Unification Wars. Captain Jake Harrison and the Endeavour would return to Valorian space as part of the task force, serving as liaison since his crew had already established contact with Commander Valora. The deployment took 3 weeks to organize. Ships were pulled from patrol duties across the solar system. Crews were briefed on first contact protocols and combat rules of engagement. Scientists and diplomats were assigned to study Valorian culture and technology. The entire operation was classified, but rumors spread quickly. Earth was going to war among the stars. While humanity prepared, events were unfolding in the broader galaxy. The Krell Empire was furious about their defeat. Warlord Kraxus, the supreme commander of Krell forces, had personally ordered the attack on the Valorians. The retreat of his ships was a humiliation he could not tolerate. In his throne room aboard the massive warship Desolation, Kraxus studied the battle footage recovered from the damaged ship. He watched the small human vessel dance through space, its weapons tearing into Krell shields with disturbing effectiveness. "What manner of species is this?" Kraxus growled. He was enormous even by Krell standards, his body covered in thick armor plating and battle scars. His advisor, a smaller Krell named Vrath, consulted his data tablet. Intelligence reports indicate they call themselves humans, from a world called Earth. They are a young species, having achieved faster-than-light travel only recently. Yet they fight like veterans, Kraxus said. Their tactics are sophisticated. They use weapons we have never encountered. The question is whether this was an isolated incident or if they have more ships, Vrath said. Kraxus smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Only one way to find out. Prepare the fleet. We will finish the Valorians and deal with these humans at the same time." While the Krell prepared their revenge, the Galactic Assembly was in turmoil. The footage of the battle had spread through diplomatic channels, and every member species was watching it with varying degrees of alarm. Ambassador Theron of the Quarren Collective called an emergency session. The Quarren were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, having achieved space travel 2 million years ago. They were scholars and philosophers dedicated to peaceful observation of younger civilizations. "This human species presents a problem," Theron said to the assembled ambassadors. The chamber was massive, with representatives from 40 different species present. They have military technology that rivals our own, yet they achieved space travel only recently. This should not be possible. "Perhaps they stole the technology," suggested Ambassador Corva, an insectoid species from the hive worlds. "Our analysis suggests otherwise," Theron replied. Every weapon system they used was unique. The missile technology, the kinetic weapons, the automated drones, these are designs we have never seen before. They developed these on their own. A murmur ran through the chamber. Most species achieved space travel through peaceful advancement over millions of years. Weapons development was seen as a waste of resources that could be better spent on science and exploration. "What do we know of their homeworld?" asked Ambassador Dren, a floating gas being from the Ethereal Collective. "Very little. Our probes have not reached their system yet. However, their communications suggest they unified their world only recently, after extensive conflicts." "They are a warrior species, then?" Corva said with distaste. "Like the Krell?" "No," Theron said firmly. "The Krell conquer because they enjoy violence. These humans fought to protect strangers who called for help. That suggests something different. Something perhaps more dangerous." "Why more dangerous?" Dren asked. "Because the Krell are predictable. They are brutal and savage, but we understand their motivations. These humans are warriors with a moral code. They fight not for conquest, but for principles. Such species are unpredictable and difficult to contain." The debate in the assembly continued, but no conclusions were reached. Some species wanted to make contact with humanity immediately, hoping to bring them into the galactic community peacefully. Others wanted to quarantine Earth's system until humanity could be properly assessed. The Quarren urged caution and observation. The human task force emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Valorian system in perfect formation. 18 warships, each bristling with weapons, their shields already energized and ready for combat. On the bridge of the TSS Retribution, Admiral Christine Hayes watched her tactical display as the sensors began mapping the system. "Report," she ordered. "Multiple contacts throughout the system," her tactical officer said, identifying Valorian civilian ships, rescue vessels, and construction platforms attempting to rebuild orbital infrastructure. "No hostile contacts detected at this time. Open a channel to the Valorian government." Within minutes, Commander Valora appeared on the main screen. She looked better than when Jake had last seen her. Her injuries healed, though her eyes still carried the weight of what her people had endured. "Admiral Hayes," Valora said, her voice filled with relief. "You came. Your Captain Harrison said Earth would send help, but I was not certain you would arrive so quickly." "Commander Valora, the Terran Federation stands ready to assist. We are deploying defensive platforms throughout your system and establishing patrol routes. If the Krell return, they will find us waiting. Admiral, I must warn you. Our intelligence reports indicate the Krell are gathering a massive fleet. Warlord Kraxus himself is leading it. They will bring 60 warships or more." Christine considered this information calmly. 60 against 18 were terrible odds by any standard, but she had not come all this way to back down now. "Then we will deal with 60 warships. Commander, I need detailed maps of your system, locations of civilian populations, and any tactical data you have on Krell combat doctrine." Over the next week, the human fleet transformed Valorian space into a fortress. Amy Rodriguez and her engineering teams worked around the clock, deploying automated defense platforms at key points throughout the system. These platforms were essentially unmanned ships carrying missile launchers and point defense systems, controlled by artificial intelligence that could respond faster than any living crew. Danny Cole coordinated with Valorian officers, learning everything they knew about Krell tactics. He was disturbed by what he learned. The Krell fought in massed formations, using overwhelming firepower to simply crush their enemies. They did not use sophisticated strategies because they had never needed them. "They fight like bullies," Danny told Christine during a briefing. "Big and strong but not clever. They will come straight at us expecting their numbers to win. Then we will teach them why humans learn to fight smart instead of just fighting hard," Christine replied. She was developing a battle plan that would use the system's geography to their advantage. The Valorian system had 3 large asteroid fields and 2 gas giants. All of those could be used as cover and ambush points. Lieutenant Chris Bailey was assigned to command a wolf pack of 4 destroyers that would operate independently, hitting Krell ships from unexpected angles. His second in command was a young officer named Tracy Hill, who had a gift for navigation that bordered on supernatural. "We are going to be moving fast and hitting hard," Chris told his crew during their briefing. "The Krell ships are bigger than us, but bigger also means slower. We stay mobile, strike targets of opportunity, and never let them pin us down." Commander Nicole Sanders was given command of the heavy cruisers, forming the main battle line. Her ships would draw Krell attention, while the destroyers and fighters did the real damage. It was a dangerous assignment, but Nicole approached it with her usual calm precision. "The key is fire discipline," she told her captains. "We cannot afford to waste ammunition. Every shot needs to count. We identify the most dangerous targets and eliminate them systematically." Captain Jake Harrison and the Endeavor were assigned to close support of the Valorian civilian vessels, protecting the evacuation ships that were moving non-combatants to safer locations. It was less glamorous than frontline combat, but Jake understood its importance. They were here to protect lives, not just win battles. The Krell fleet arrived on the 9th day. They emerged from hyperspace like a plague, 60 massive warships spreading across space in a formation designed to intimidate. Each ship was dark and angular, covered in armor plating and weapon emplacements. At the center of the formation was the Desolation, Warlord Kraxus's flagship, twice the size of any other ship present. On the Retribution's bridge, alarms blared as sensors detected the enemy fleet. "All ships, battle stations," Christine ordered, her voice calm despite the odds they faced. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Let us show these bastards what humanity is capable of." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The heavy cruisers under Nicole Sanders moved to the center, forming a defensive wall. Chris Bailey's destroyers scattered toward the asteroid fields, disappearing among the rocks. The 2 carriers launched their fighter squadrons over 100 small craft that swarmed forward like angry bees. Warlord Kraxus watched the human deployment from his throne. "They divide their forces. Foolish, all ships advance. Destroy them. The Krell fleet surged forward in a solid mass, their weapons charging. They expected the humans to meet them in a traditional fleet engagement. Instead, the human battle plan unfolded with devastating precision. The fighters struck first, their missiles targeting the Krell ship's sensor arrays and communication antennas. They did not try to destroy the massive warships, but instead blinded and deafened them, making coordination difficult. The Krell point defense systems managed to shoot down some fighters, but many more got through. Then Chris Bailey's destroyers attacked from the asteroid field. They appeared without warning, launched full spreads of missiles, and vanished back into the rocks before the Krell could respond. 3 Krell ships took heavy damage in the first strike, their shields collapsing under the sudden assault. "What kind of cowardly tactics are these?" Kraxus roared. "They hide like prey animals." "They are using the terrain against us," Vrath observed nervously. "Our ships are too large to pursue them into the asteroid field effectively." On the TSS Valiant, Chris Bailey grinned as his ship threaded through the asteroids at speeds that made his crew nervous. "Reload all tubes. Tracy, plot us a course to that cluster at Grid 7. We are going for another run." "Sir, that is going to bring us awful close to those big rocks," Tracy said. "Good. The bigger the rocks, the better the cover. Execute." The Krell fleet tried to push forward toward the heavy cruisers, hoping to destroy the human capital ships. Nicole Sanders watched them come, waiting for the perfect moment. "All ships focus fire on the lead elements," she ordered. "Target their engines. I want them dead in space." The 4 heavy cruisers opened fire simultaneously, their railguns and missile batteries creating a wall of destruction. The Krell shields held for a few seconds, then failed. Tungsten projectiles moving at relativistic speeds punched through armor like it was paper. 2 Krell ships exploded, their reactors breaching. 3 more lost power and began drifting, but the Krell numbers were telling. For every ship the humans damaged, 3 more took its place. The human shields began taking hits, their strength dropping steadily. On the Retribution, damage reports started coming in. "Shield strength at 60%, Christine's tactical officer reported. "Portside batteries 3 and 4 are offline. Route power from secondary systems to shields," Christine ordered. "All point defense systems to automatic. Keep those missiles off us." The battle raged for hours. The humans fought with skill and desperation, using every trick they knew. They deployed electronic warfare systems that made Krell targeting computers go haywire. They used nuclear missiles with yields measured in megatons, turning space into a storm of fire. They even used debris from destroyed ships as improvised weapons, accelerating it with tractor beams and hurling it at enemy vessels. Jake Harrison and the Endeavor were forced into combat when a group of Krell ships tried to break through to the civilian evacuation convoy. Jake put his ship between the civilians and the enemy, fighting a running battle that pushed his crew to their limits. "We cannot take many more hits like that," Amy shouted, as another impact shook the ship. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Sealing them now. Just keep us flying," Jake said. "Danny, target their weapons systems. If we cannot destroy them, let us at least make them less dangerous." The Endeavor's railgun spoke again, precision fire that took out weapon emplacements one by one. It was not enough to stop the Krell ships, but it bought time for the civilian vessels to reach safety. On the Desolation, Kraxus was growing frustrated. The humans were costing him far more ships than he had anticipated. His fleet had destroyed 5 human vessels, but they had crippled or destroyed over 20 Krell ships in return. The numbers were unacceptable. "Order all ships to focus on the human flagship," Kraxus commanded. "Kill their leader and the rest will break." The Krell fleet shifted, 30 ships converging on the Retribution. Nicole Sanders saw it happening and immediately moved her heavy cruisers to intercept, but there were too many enemies. The Retribution's shields were hammered by overwhelming firepower. "Shield failure in 30 seconds, Christine's tactical officer reported, his voice tight with stress. Christine made a decision. "All ships, this is Admiral Hayes. Implement Protocol Omega. I repeat, Protocol Omega." 3 months after the Battle of Valorian Prime, the galaxy was a different place. The Krell Empire, which had terrorized entire sectors for centuries, was collapsing from within. Their defeat at human hands had shattered the myth of Krell invincibility. Species they had conquered for generations were rising in rebellion, and the Krell military was stretched too thin to suppress them all. On Earth, the Terran Federation council chambers were packed once again. But this time, the debate was not about whether to get involved in galactic affairs. That ship had sailed. Now they were discussing how to manage humanity's sudden prominence on the interstellar stage. Admiral Christine Hayes stood before the council, looking tired but satisfied. The past 3 months had been intense. After the battle, her fleet had stayed in Valorian space, helping to rebuild orbital defenses and training Valorian personnel in military tactics. It was strange work for warriors becoming teachers, but the humans had adapted. The Galactic Assembly has extended a formal invitation for humanity to join as a member species, Christine reported. They are also requesting our assistance in dealing with the aftermath of the Krell collapse. Several former Krell territories are descending into chaos. Counselor Peter Grant looked troubled, as he often did these days. Admiral, are we prepared to become peacekeepers for the entire galaxy? We barely have enough ships to patrol our own system. We are not alone anymore, Christine replied. The Valorians are sharing their technology with us. Their faster-than-light drives are more efficient than ours. Their energy shield technology is decades ahead of what we have developed. In exchange, we are helping them build a proper military. It is a fair trade, Counselor Maria Lopez spoke up. What about the other species? How are they reacting to our presence? Mixed reactions. Some species see us as heroes who stood up to a threat everyone else ignored. Others view us as dangerous warmongers who solved a problem with violence. The Quarren Collective, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, is particularly concerned about us. Why? Maria asked. Because we represent something they have never encountered before. A species that is both technologically advanced and militarily aggressive. Most species lose their warlike nature before they achieve space travel. We did both simultaneously. It makes us unpredictable. The debate continued, but eventually a consensus emerged. Humanity would accept membership in the Galactic Assembly. They would send diplomats, scientists, and yes, military advisors. Earth was going to become a major player in galactic politics, whether they were ready or not. In Valorian space, Captain Jake Harrison was overseeing the final repairs to the Endeavor. The ship had taken serious damage during the battle, but Amy Rodriguez and her engineering team had worked miracles. The Endeavor was almost as good as new, with a few Valorian upgrades thrown in for good measure. Captain, you have a visitor, Megan Foster announced. Commander Valora entered the bridge, moving with more confidence than she had 3 months ago. The Valorians were changing, adapting to the harsh realities of a galaxy where not everyone wanted peace. They were learning to defend themselves, and Valora had become their first true military commander. Captain Harrison, she greeted him warmly. I wanted to thank you personally before you returned to Earth. You have thanked us plenty already, Jake said with a smile. Besides, we could not have won without your people providing intelligence and support. Still, you came when no one else would. The Galactic Assembly sent bureaucrats and observers. You sent warriors. Valora paused, choosing her words carefully. The galaxy is uncomfortable with your species, Jake. They are not used to dealing with people like you. People like us. People who fight not for conquest, but for others. The Krell are cruel, but they are simple. They want power and territory. Everyone understands that. But you fight for principles, for strangers you have never met. That makes you dangerous in ways the galaxy cannot predict. Jake thought about that. Is that a warning? It is advice from a friend. The Galactic Assembly will test you. They will push to see how you react. Some species will try to manipulate you into fighting their battles. Others will attempt to contain you, limit your influence. You must navigate these politics carefully. We will do our best, Jake promised. Though I have to admit politics was never my strong suit. Valora laughed, a sound that was becoming more common among Valorians these days. Mine either. I was a scientist before all this. Now I command warships. Life takes strange turns. On the Krell homeworld, Warlord Kraxus sat in his war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the collapse of his empire. Rebellions burned on a dozen worlds. Trade routes were cut off. His fleet, once the terror of the sector, was scattered and demoralized. How did this happen? Kraxus growled at his advisors. We are the Krell. We have conquered empires. How did one small species do this to us? None of his advisors wanted to answer. Finally, Vrath spoke carefully. The humans did not defeat us through superior numbers or technology. They defeated us through will. They were willing to risk everything to protect strangers. That kind of determination is difficult to combat. Then we will break their determination, Kraxus said. We will strike at their homeworld, make them feel the pain we have inflicted on others. Warlord, our intelligence suggests Earth is heavily defended now. The humans have brought their entire fleet home and are building new ships constantly. An attack on their homeworld would be suicide. Kraxus slammed his fist on the table, cracking the metal. Then what do you suggest? That we simply accept defeat? I suggest we sue for peace, Vrath said quietly. The Krell Empire is finished. We can either negotiate while we still have some bargaining power, or we can fight until every last Krell is dead. It was unthinkable. The Krell did not surrender. But as Kraxus looked at the displays showing his crumbling empire, he realized he had no choice. The humans had not just defeated them militarily, they had broken the Krell psychologically. For the first time in his life, Kraxus felt something he had never experienced. He felt beaten. The invitation to join the Galactic Assembly came with a ceremony, of course. The Assembly loved their ceremonies, formal events filled with speeches and ancient traditions. The location was the Assembly's central station, a massive structure orbiting a neutron star in neutral space. Admiral Christine Hayes led the human delegation. With her came Captain Jake Harrison, Commander Nicole Sanders, Lieutenant Chris Bailey, and a dozen diplomats and scientists. They arrived on the TSS Retribution, which had been polished until it gleamed. The assembly chamber was breathtaking. It was a sphere a kilometer in diameter, with seating for representatives from all member species. Gravity varied throughout the chamber to accommodate different physiologies. Some aliens sat in normal seats, others floated in specialized environments, and a few existed as energy beings that manifested as glowing lights. Ambassador Theron of the Quarren Collective presided over the ceremony. The Quarren looked almost human, though their skin had a faint blue tint, and they moved with a grace that suggested lower gravity evolution. We gather today to welcome a new species into our community, Theron said. His voice translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. The humans of Earth have proven themselves capable of space travel and diplomatic relations. They have also proven themselves capable of great violence. There was uncomfortable shifting among some of the delegates. Theron continued, This assembly was founded on principles of peace and cooperation. We believed that all intelligent species would naturally choose harmony over conflict. The humans challenge this belief. They are warriors who chose to fight not for conquest but for the protection of others. This makes them unique in our experience. Christine stood to address the assembly. She had prepared a speech, but looking at the thousands of alien eyes watching her, she decided to speak from the heart instead. Members of the Galactic Assembly, 3 months ago, my species received a distress call from people we had never met. We did not know the Valorians. We did not know the Krell. We did not know any of you. But someone was calling for help and we answered. That is what humans do. She paused, making eye contact with various delegates. I have heard that our capacity for violence makes you uncomfortable. I understand that. Humans have a long history of warfare. We have fought terrible conflicts over resources, territory, beliefs, and sometimes just pride. We are not proud of this history, but we have also learned from it. We learned that sometimes peace requires strength, that protecting the innocent sometimes means confronting the guilty, that standing by and doing nothing while others suffer is its own form of violence. The Galactic Assembly failed the Valorians because your rules prioritize process over lives. We will not make that mistake. The chamber erupted in murmurs, some approving, others shocked. Christine pressed on. We are joining this assembly, but we will not abandon our values. We will defend the defenseless. We will stand against tyranny, and we will do it with or without your approval. If that makes us dangerous, then so be it. But we prefer to think of it as being dependable. Theron watched her with an unreadable expression. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Captain Hayes speaks with refreshing honesty. The Assembly accepts humanity as a member species. May this partnership prove